I'm fine doing it.
No, I just wanted you to say it. Just want to make sure we do this. We can measure in the final G. 72 measures. When we're singing Sheila, we need some air. No, I have to be near her so we can play together.
Oh, you were in this house. Okay. Yeah.
Passes by. Give us courage, send your light, and joy will be ours. When the morning breaks, then our hearts will awake, and know a love that never fails. Our love and full of grace, overshadow us with your love, shelter us with kindly care. We have nowhere else to go till harm passes by. Give us courage, send your light, and joy will be ours. When the shadows fall, and we hear God's call, in peace beyond all measure, where Overshadow us with your love. Shelter us with kindly care. We have nowhere else to go till home passes by. Give us courage, send your light, and joy will be our praise. Welcome to this celebration of Sandy's life, a wonderful creative spirit. And we would like to welcome her sister Sheila, her sister-in-law Linda, and her nephew Richard, as well as those people who are joining us around the country by means of Zoom. Let us pray. Gentle God, in your love for all living things, you gather us into your arms at death and hold us in your love. We come together this evening to remember Sister Sandy and to give thanks for her life. She was family and friend to us. As you led her in this life, so now we ask that you lead her into the fullness of life in your loving presence. We ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus. Please be seated. We will now have a biography of her life prepared by Sister Eleanor Craig, our archivist.
Sandy Ardoyno lived fully and with much enthusiasm all the days of her life. Sandy followed her twin sister Susie into the world, making her the third of the 4 children of Sidney and Sally Leach Ardoyno. With her brother Jack and sister Sheila, the twins grew up in Mobile, Alabama. More than 50 years later, at the time of her Golden Jubilee, Sandy described her early years in Alabama in these words. Hi, y'all. As we say in the South, my name is Sandy, and I was sent to Mobile, Alabama as an art teacher when we were still sending sisters to their missions. I love it here so much, I have never felt the need to relocate. Should I also say that I was born in and went to school in Mobile? That is true too. I met the Sisters of Loretto when I went to Bishop Tulin High School, and that has made all the difference. When I was in grade school, I felt a call to do something of service to other people. And at that time, the only way women usually could do some service was through being a sister. The reason I came to Loretto is because I saw what I wanted to be in the individuals who taught me at Tulin. They seemed to encourage individuals in doing what they wanted to do. Sandy entered Loretto in September of 1961. On May the 31st, 1962, she received the habit and the name Sister Mary Susan, in honor of her twin. She made her first vows 2 years later and moved to the House of Studies to complete her education at Webster College. In an interview just 3 years ago, Sandy described her eagerness to serve. From the beginning, I knew what I wanted to do, and I just was hoping it was what they wanted me to do too. I was looking forward to finishing school and getting out there. I was thinking, like that saying of Father Nerings's, gain souls, hunt souls, gather souls, get souls, whatever. In the novitiate and the House of Studies, if anything came up dealing with art, I got to go to it. I spent the last 2 years at Webster doing nothing but art, which was fine with me. It was lovely. And in fact, at Bishop Tulane, where I went for high school, they had just added a new art room, and they were kind of holding it for me, which was really very nice. And so I went there and taught for almost 45 years. I think of service in lots of different ways, but if you encourage your students to do the best they can in whatever it is they decide they want to do, I consider that service. In 1974, Sandy was asked about her work interests, and she wrote, "I am interested in anything in the art field and women's sports and anything that needs organization. I'm open to a lot of different possibilities. There seems so much to do. I don't quite know what to tackle first or second." By those early 1970s, Sandy was already teacher and chairperson of the art department at Bishop Tulane and assistant coach of the girls' volleyball team, the Dirty Dozen. She had already helped initiate La Casa Head Start Daycare Center and was its director by 1974. From early May through July of each year, she ran the center. The rest of the year, she recruited young adults to serve as teachers and counselors for the center. At the same time, Sandy was president of the Sisters Senate of the Mobile Diocese and served on both the Diocesan Pastoral Council and the Parish Council for St. Francis Xavier Parish. Mobile, Sandy liked to say, was her first and only mission. Through the 1970s and 80s, she expanded her activities in Mobile and the surrounding counties and continued almost all of them until 2005, when the loss of a funding source caused her to close La Casa after 35 years. She continued most of her other activities another half dozen years, especially at McGill Tulane. To her teaching and organizing responsibilities, Sandy added a steady stream of various tasks for and with the Loretto community. She served in 1979 and 80 on the renovation of this church, the Mother House Church. From 1977 through the 1980s, she served on various committees concerned with new members. In 1998, she assumed the job of coordinator of Loretto's volunteer program for a couple of years, saying, "I get energized every time I think of working with those young volunteers." In the year 2000 and again in 2003, Sandy was elected to the Loretto Executive Committee. In 2010, Sandy wrote in response to a questionnaire, "I've been on most of the Loretto committees, and they are all fantastic when you think about it. I especially liked working on special needs with Mary Mangan. We often forget that working on a committee means working with others whom we get to know and respect." Sandy's name appears in many issues of our magazine Interchange and Loretto magazine as a member of planning groups for assemblies and special meetings. Not only her endless energy and enthusiasm, but particularly Sandy's personal artwork has enhanced and illuminated Loretto for more than 50 years. Our lives have been graced with her banners, posters, designs on programs, logos for special projects, assemblies, and mailings. Each year for more than 3 decades, Sandy designed and produced wall calendars for an increasingly large number of Loretto members and friends. In 2012, Sandy's novitiate classmates celebrated their Golden Jubilee with a booklet titled Voices from Silence, interpreted by Sandy's artwork. Late in 2006, Sandy was diagnosed with kidney disease. She began dialysis, which continued on a nightly basis until a transplant was possible. Somewhat earlier, she had begun to show signs of Parkinson's disease, and she developed increasing pain in her back and legs. A woman of great energy for life, Sandy just kept going with smiling determination. In 2012, she celebrated her Golden Jubilee with friends, students, and family in Mobile, and then retired to the Mother House, joining the novitiate second floor community. Sandy brought all her creative energies and a vast amount of art supplies with her from Mobile. She quickly applied her artistic talents to transforming a farm wagon into a Christmas float for the parade through the town of Loretto. She organized and staffed an art room in the novitiate building, drawing Mother House residents and employees into her web of creative enthusiasm. Her most recent efforts included a PowerPoint presentation for the Mary Rhodes Award at the 2015 Loretto Assembly in celebration of the many women who staff the Mother House and infirmary services. Miguel Tulin High School didn't forget Sandy. Just last month, Sandy went happily and proudly back to Mobile to be inducted into the school's Hall of Fame. Typically, she worked until the very last minute to prepare handmade gifts for each of the other inductees. It was a weekend of accolades and loving remembrances from colleagues and students, all of whom praised Sandy as we do for making the world a better, brighter, more colorful place, particularly for young people.
I chose life. Throughout my life, I accepted God's gift of life around me, the sacred treasure of each human being, whether mother, father, sister, brother, friend, or stranger, rich or poor, ill or well, ally or enemy, or indifferent. Each, I believed, was crafted in God's image. To each was offered Christ's redemption, and in each moved the Spirit's blessing. I chose life.
The answer is still yes.
I accepted God's gift of life in many times. In infant's cry, in childhood's wonder, in trials of teen years and embrace of youth, in maturity's accomplishments and failures, in waning days and nights' negotiations.
The answer is still yes.
Now I accept God's gift of life in my dying. In God's hands, the shaping of the manner, and by God's clock, the counting of the hour.
The answer is still yes.
May God, who lays me down, uphold me. May Christ, along the way, companion me. May Spirit, life, and light billow me into the resurrection. God is life, and this is what I choose.
The answer is still yes.
Oh God, You have searched me, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I stand. You mark when I am awake or down. With all my ways you are acquainted. Knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you for the wonder of my being. Search me, O God, and know my heart. O test me and know my thoughts. See that I follow not the wrong way, and lead me in the way of life eternal. To you, source of all being, eternal Word and Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and will be forever. Amen. I will come to you in the silence. I will lift you up from your fear. You will hear my voice. I claim it as my choice. Be still and know I am here. I am hope for all who are hopeless. I am eyes for all who want to see. The shadows of the night, I will be the light. Come and rest in me. Do not be afraid, I am with you. I have called you each by name. Come and follow me, I will bring you home. I love you and you are mine. And now we will share our memories and thoughts about Sandy, and I'm sure there are lots of them. Give us a minute to set up the microphone and we'll begin. We will start our sharing with the Mother House, and I ask that you give your name before you begin. So anyone who would like to share some thoughts.
I'm Carol Ann Tachik. I was in Sandy's class. She was the youngest of 42 when we entered in 1961. When she came here, I was her nurse. I tried. I did a lot of things for her, and that wasn't always an easy job because she was a free spirit. If I didn't have Mary Swain, I think maybe she might have seen God sooner. When she decided, as her health diminished, after her surgery on her back, she went to the infirmary, and then there came a point where she had to decide whether to stay or not. But she chose to stay in the infirmary, which was the better choice in my estimation. She said to me shortly after she was there, Carol, I really like you better now. And I says, why, Sandy? She says, because you don't tell me what to do anymore. I said, I don't know what difference that makes because you never did what I told you. And then she laughed. She thought that was pretty funny. She did. She was obedient, but I had a hard time reining her. I was in the older half, and she said one day, oh, you're one of those old ones.
Deborah Kale, co-member. I know I met Sandy 20 years ago, and as soon as I met her, my hands became busy sitting out on the screened-in porch, second floor novitiate. She was always doing a project. If we'd sit around and chat and talk, and there she had something in her lap, and you'd be joining her, or you'd be doing her project with her all of a sudden. We just bonded from that point on. I have my fondest memories last summer being at the Gulf Shores of Alabama with her for a week. Oh, what a joy. Try not to cry. 30 minutes ago, as I turned the corner at 49th, the Highway 49 coming in here, Barbara Streisand was singing memories like the corners of my mind, misty, watered, colored memories. I walk in and I sit down by Alicia and I said, oh, I love your shirt. And it read, Save the Earth's Garden. Beautiful shirt. And she said, oh, it was Sandy's. She said, oh, and you're sitting in Sandy's seat. Thank you, God.
I'm Cabrini Bartola, sister of Loretto. I've only been here 9 months, and my experience with Sandy is going to the Archbishop's dinner. So we go hand in hand, and she had a delightful time. I did take one of her red shirts, and I washed it, and all at once I heard a jingle jingle. She had a little zipper here and 2 quarters in her pocket.
My name is Kathy Wright, and I just want to say how pleased I am that I was here for 3 years with Sandy. I was always amazed at the breadth and depth of her generosity. When she thought about things to do to add beauty and joy to the Mother House, she included everyone, employees, residents, guests. She always gave 110%. She did a lovely card for me when I changed my address, and it was wonderful. She hung the pictures in my office for me in a much more artistic and demanding way than I ever would have. And she just never stopped thinking about ways that she could bring joy and beauty to all of us here. And she was a real model for all of us, and I'm grateful.
I'm Sharon Casson. Sandy and I are in the same class with Carol and Donna. And when I was here about 10 days ago, Eleanor asked me to go through her stuff in the art room to make sure that none of our originals got away by accident. And so for 2 afternoons, I went through piles of stuff. And at the end, I was really disappointed because there wasn't much that was original aside from her calendar things. And so I was kind of sad by that. But then someplace between here and St. Louis, it dawned on me that everything she did for a reason other than our saving it. I mean, posters, banners, invitations, even our green book, you know. So I wanted to say one thing about that. When we started the green book, Voices from Silence, none of us could figure out what she was talking about. The whole layout, you know, it was going to have lines that went this way, and they were going to be indented, and you're going to go that. And we were thinking, well, sweet Jesus, what is this going to look like? You know, it was really bizarre. I couldn't be, when that thing came to us finished, I just couldn't believe what a wonderful job she did on it. You know, the writing was one piece that she had a terrible time with her part to write, but the artwork just pulls it together so nicely. And I'm really proud of her for that.
Marion McAvoy. Sharon invited a group of us down to her place at the Mobile Bay, where she, at the end of her time for the migrant worker children. And maybe it was to help her clean it up, but mostly I think it was so we could really get to enjoy the wonders of Mobile Bay that we always had heard so much about. And when we were there, this amazing event called a Jubilee happened. And it seems that pure clear water comes into the bay, and sort of when it does, I think it's a crayfish, Katie? Are those the fish that are pushed forward? And they're all on the coastline, just piles of them. And it seems that that's called a Jubilee. And so I think, you know, of Sandy as sort of a Jubilee. You know, there was something so fresh and clear about her approach to life and to us, even to her devastating illness. And it was like the water, you know, that pushed away so much of what would be not so alive. And she gave so much, you know, to all of us. We think through all the years, you know, she had the gifts, but they were ours. She just gave so much. And so that's like the wonderful crawfish that people celebrated. They were so excited that had happened, you know, as someone, Kay was telling me, people went out in the streets and had festivals because that is happening. And so it's an image I think about with Sandy, pureness, clearness, and then the wonderful gifts that just keep on going. And so I say to you, Sandy, wherever you are, let's celebrate Jubilee. Jubilee.
Donna Day. Sandy and I often room together at assemblies, and at most assemblies or meetings, she would arrive with frozen fish, shrimp, and she would come off the airplane, and it would be dripping down the concourse. And I don't eat fish. And I'd say to her, what are we going to do with that? And she'd find a way in a hotel to get that fish cooked. That shrimp would be cooked. And I could never figure that out. And some of us went down for her Jubilee, you might remember. And there were more shrimp. How many shrimp did you peel? Miss Coombe, piles of shrimp. And I don't know whatever, we never ate it. I don't know what happened to it, but that was the night we're on the back porch of this wonderful house over on the bay, right? And a friend of hers had given us, and we stayed there. And Sandy was sewing the blouse she was going to wear the next morning. Now, the sleeves were in backwards. Remember, Mary was there. And if it hadn't been for Mary Catherine Robert, who had more courage than all of us with Sandy, she'd have won it. But she didn't. We made her change, and somebody earlier today at dinner said, you know that blouse? She wore it here, and those sleeves are still basted in. We'll miss Sandy. Elizabeth Kroom. I was going to sit there and not say anything, but after Donna, it's a little hard for me to do that. Probably I have known Sandy longer than anyone else here. She was in second grade in elementary school when I was in 8th grade. And she and Susie were my flower girls at a big deal we had in 8th grade. And I remember how cute they were, and I remember their mother, who had been a friend of my mother's also, but their mother stood back and made sure that the announcer said the right name. We did this for 2 nights, and one night it was Susan and the other night it was Sandy. And so I've known Sandy for a long time, but didn't have much contact through the years except to see her art and to receive the calendar and that kind of thing. And then I've known her here for the last 3 years. And of course, I peeled that shrimp when we had, I think we had shrimp bisque the night before the Jubilee. And it's been fun to see the development from the little second grader to the adult. So she'll be missed, and her art will be missed. My name is Sister Mary Peter Bruce, and after I graduated with a degree in primary education, I was sent to Mobile. I think my old principal, Sister Matthew Marie, pulled a few strings, and it was just such a wonderful year. It was my only year of teaching high school, and she gave me the sophomore religion class. And that was where Sandy and Susie were. And at first I had a terrible time telling them apart, until one of them, I think it was Susie, said to me, you know, sister, I have little diamonds on my glasses. You can tell me that way. And pretty soon I got to know them, and they each had their own personality, but they were both such beautiful women. And in fact, all the girls in Mobile were very beautiful. And so it was a good thing that this summer when I came, I happened to be around when Sandy got the word that she had been chosen to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. And then she invited me to go with her to Mobile. So it was just great going back to the place of my youth and to see so many. I didn't find any of the other girls, but I did find Sheila and some other ones. And when it came time to go to the celebration, I was sure that the celebration was in the evening, but it turned out to be at noontime. And she was a little worried because she lost the speech that she had written. So I said, Sandy, just speak from your heart. And she did. And she started out by saying, I think I have taught most of you here.
because she had worked there so many times, such a long time. So it was just wonderful to see her and see how happy she was and how happy everybody was to get to see her. The other teachers were waiting for us in a restaurant when we arrived, and then the next day, and it turned out I was not even dressed special for the party because the party was at noontime. But it was a wonderful, wonderful meeting. Then in the evening, it was the first time I had gone back to a football game since I was in high school myself. And at the middle of the midterm, or whatever you call it, of the halftime, thank you, of the game, all 5 of the inductees were introduced. There were 2 doctors, 1 dentist, and a businessman, all very wonderful men. And Sandy was right in the midst of them. And since she couldn't walk very well, she asked one of them to walk with her. And actually 2 of them said, "We want to walk with you." And so they did. And so she was so very, very happy. And I was so grateful to have seen that. Thank you.
This is another Sandy and the Shrimp stories. My name is Marie Ego, and I was on the membership team with Sandy and Kathy Muller and Vicki Quatman and Liz Dyer. Kathy and I realized recently that 3 of the 5 of us are in heaven, but we're left. So we went down to Mobile every spring for our membership team meeting for 4 or 5 days. And Sandy every spring organized shrimp for us. We would boil it, we would clean it a little, and we would eat it and eat it. Well, one time we were staying in somebody's house, and we kept putting the remains of the shrimp in a big black plastic bag outside the door because we didn't like the smell. About 3 days after we'd been there, the bag was pretty ripe. And Marion, I think you were there that time. We said, well, we're going out to supper, so Sandy said, let's take the bag. I know a trash container on the way to where we're going for supper. So we had borrowed Marietta Goy, if you're listening, Marietta and Mert's car from New Orleans. And we had driven to Mobile, and we were going to drive back. Well, we put the shrimp in the plastic bag in the back of the car, but shrimp have very sharp heads. And the next day, we managed to get rid of them. The next day, the car smelled awful. And I remember, Marion, on the way back, you kept saying, keep the windows open, keep the windows open. And Sandy was kind of really blithe about it. Oh, well, but they had to sell the car ultimately.
Okay, Kathleen Vanderhaar. I know this includes everybody. Sandy was so inclusive. On Valentine's Day, a couple years ago, she made a personal card for every single one of us, every employee on the place, and was very proud of all the quotes that she picked out for people. And she also liked to include other people in her work. She preferred to work with people. And so many of her projects, she would inveigle people to work with her for long hours. And she liked to make banners. And I thought, you know, it's a good thing that she didn't know she was going to die that night. Because if she did, she would have gotten up and made a banner for the occasion. So this is one of her banners hanging right up here. Thank you, Sandy.
I must share this lasting remembrance of Sandy. We had a fire drill, and this was 2 days after Sandy had gotten out of the hospital. She was sitting in the dining room. She was all in white, but when I looked at her face, it was beautiful and it glowed. And as a chaplain, I will always remember her face.
I'm Sheila Ardoyno Morin. I'm Sandy's sister. And I have a lot of memories, as you can imagine, and it's kind of hard to choose one. I remember coming here when I was just a little kid, and she got her first, the white habit, novice, when she was a novice. And we'd ride through these hills, and I would think we were going to go sailing off the mountain, but we made it, and I loved coming here, and I love coming back. I always do. It was Sandy's home, and I feel like I'm coming home when I'm here. But I must say our happiest memories were probably when she came back to Mobile and she taught art. It was her first year to teach at Tulane. It was my first year to be at Tulane. And she taught me all 4 years, and it was something. But we were pals, and we hadn't been for a long time because she left when I was still kind of little, and I missed her. You know, she's gone away, but we got to be pals again. We got to go places together, meet friends together, see people together, and that was in the 60s, and you may recall that E.E. Cummings was a big deal. If you had anything to do with art or literature, E.E. Cummings was it. And I told Sandy not too long ago that one of the things I remembered from art class was fog coming in on little cat's feet by E.E. Cummings. And she said, no. I said, well, it's a great quote, but it was Sandberg, and she was quick to point that out to me. But Sandy did introduce me to a lot of wonderful people, and she made my time at Tulane very, very special. And I think that the timing of her leaving was absolutely fantastic because she had just been recognized. It was the accolade of her career, and she didn't have to suffer some of the bad things that were to come. Thank you.
Public speaking. I'm Lindia Ardoyno. I am Sheila's sister-in-law, and I was married to her brother, Jack, who died 2.5 years ago. And Sheila and I were here 2 years ago to visit with Sandy. And it's the first time I had been here, and I was overwhelmed by this place. It was just amazing. Am I too far away? Okay. Okay. I just have one little silly story about Sandy. We lived in Minneapolis, and she came to visit, and it was my daughter's birthday. I don't know how old she was, but young. And Sandy and I had ordered this beautiful cake, and Sandy said, let's get lots of roses on it. And it was just full of roses. And so we drove back to the house, and Sandy was holding the cake. And I said, okay, I'll come over there and I'll get it. She said, no, I'll take it. So she got out, and naturally the cake she slipped or bent over, and we were horrified. The roses were smushed. So Sandy spent the next hour recreating all of these little roses, which I could never have done, but she did. And then one last thing is when she had her transplant, Jack and I were down there with Sheila, and some of the stories you say about her enlisting you, she was making the calendar that year of the whole family, pictures of everyone in the family, putting them on the birth dates on the whole calendar, all the rest of it. But she never did quite remember all the different dates and everything. So she had me go in and look up all the dates and write them all down and put it all together. But we still had that calendar. I think it was 2008 or 2008, I think. So I miss Sandy a lot. She came to visit us quite a bit.
Okay, another Deb Burkale, another funny Sandy story. When we were on our week's vacation at the Gulf Shores, what's the town that has the most delicious peaches and the homemade peach ice cream? Yeah, okay, so we stopped in there for the most delicious. And I went in, and the toilet paper roll was empty, so I took it off, and when I came to the table, I handed it to Sandy. And next gas station we stop at, 30 miles later, she comes out, and she has an empty toilet paper roll, and she gives it to me. So during our trip for the week, it must have been 10 empty toilet paper rolls that we handed each other at different various places that we would end up. There was just empty toilet paper rolls. So I forget what day her birthday was, but for her birthday, I made a piñata filled with all the toilet paper rolls that I had saved, and use the tissue paper that you take the toilet paper off of. So that was her birthday present, to revisit all those empty toilet paper rolls.
My name is Richard Morin. I am Sandy's nephew. Thank you. And when we were on our way up here, we were not prepared to talk. And I don't know if I could share a memory. I was many times either the galley slave or the partner in crime for shrimp escapades and screen printing on Saturdays and fixing the cable box when she couldn't get the TV to work. And so I've known her my whole life, and it might not be as long as some of y'all, but that's the entirety of my existence. So I won't tell the story, but I will say she's our family, and the greatest crime to commit to someone is to have them be alone. And I want to thank you for extending your family to her and making her part of your family, and she was never alone. So thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, Rebecca, I think we're ready to turn it over to you, or maybe it's Nicole.
Okay, we'll start with St. Louis. Is there anyone in St. Louis who would like to speak? Anyone? Okay, is there anyone in Denver who would like to speak? Okay, anyone else viewing? Would you like to speak? If you do, please unmute yourself.
Hello, this is Kathy Muller, and I got to know Sandy in the late 70s and 80s when we worked together on the membership team. Marie talked about the incident with the shrimp boat, and we had a lot of different experiences, but I was so aware of, as people are telling stories of her since she's been at the Mother House, how consistent this is with her entire life. When we worked together, there were 5 of us, and we divided up the jobs, and she was teaching full-time, coaching full-time, the Dirty Dozen. We would have our spring meeting, as Marie said, down in Mobile, and we go over to Camp Cullen, and she was preparing to run an incredible program that started before school was out, so she was, doing double and triple duty for migrant children, and it was one of the best programs for kids that went on for years and years, and the connections with the families and all of the activities that they offered them, and all of the young college-age people that she brought in to volunteer to do the work with these families and with these children. She was amazing in her organizational ability. She was amazing in her inclusivity, but also in her energy, and always looking to do it for others, for the next people, and thinking nothing of creating things that some of us would just not be able to do. And Sandy would do it, and do it with graciousness, do it with laughter, do it with great joy. And she truly will be missed.
So you're
Mary Catherine, it's yours.
Thank you, Nicole. This is Mary Catherine Rabbit in Denver, and I'm very sorry that I cannot be there. I'm pleased to be able to be connected in this way. I first met Sandy when I was a first-year novice, canonical novice, and she was a junior at the House of Studies, and she came down over the Christmas holidays to teach our class calligraphy. And then I didn't see her for a number of years, and Kathleen O'Malley, my former housemate, was a former teacher of Sandy's, and they were very close. So I really got to know Sandy through Kath. And we had many, many wonderful times together, trips together. The last one was in 2010 when we went to Sandy Medicine, DC, and we went to the Smithsonian exhibit of the LCWR program. And we always had a good time together. It was always a good time. But I was saying to Donna when we were talking that, Sandy's, the phrase I think of is "let no preparations be considered extravagant." That is a motto of hers, and that I associate with her. Sorry. And what I wanted to say today is that she did live life to the fullest, and I was very shocked to learn of her death, but also felt a great sense of relief to know that she was really spared the worst of the ravages of the Parkinson's, and that she lived fully every minute of her life. And I will miss her a great deal, but I'm glad that she's at peace and at rest. Rest in peace, Sandy.
Would anyone else like to speak? Okay, I think it's back to you, Mother House.
We
Thank you, everyone, for being here and sharing her life.